Welcome everyone to Already Cancelled. I am Peter, that is Tara, and we are going to talk about the Twilight Zone Season 3 Episode 31. It's called The Trade-Ins, so full spoilers for the episode as always. It feels so wrong saying Episode 31. And I know it's the third time, actually no, the last one was only like 29 episodes, but I know this is the second time I've went beyond Episode 30, but something feels so wrong about it. It's not right.
It's still just like, wow. And we still have so many to go.
Like there shouldn't be seasons of TV where the episode count surpasses my age. We're technically not quite there yet, but that shouldn't be. It shouldn't happen. I'm too old for that now.
Okay.
And this season might also hit your age. I don't know.
I wasn't.
We'll find out.
I knew that was coming next.
I can't remember. This has more than season 1, so we'll find out. But welcome everyone. The Trade-Ins. What is this one about, you might ask? This is about an old couple who go to a service in the near future who offer new bodies. They offer to transfer your consciousness into a young set of artificial bodies. Well, just one, but in this case it's a couple, so it's a set. And the idea being that you pay a fee up front, and then you wake up in the new young body, and you're lively again. You get to live for another, 70 years, whatever it might be.
120.
120?
Or no, 112, I think he says. The salesman says.
Is that a guarantee, or is it just like the max lifespan?
I imagine you could still injure yourself, but I don't really know all the rules.
Yeah, because I didn't really take it as a... Because I still kind of took it like they were organic. I mean, they're artificial, but it didn't feel like, to me, like they're robots. It still felt like they were going to age again.
It seemed like they would age, yeah.
So my expectation is that it's still kind of an unknown factor. Like, they still might croak at a random interval if things just happen to go wrong. But hey, it's a second chance. Second go round. But that is the general premise of the episode. Yeah, I'll just ask the question, I guess. I mean, the episode pretty much consists of the sort of the presentation, the car salesman-like pitch of the man who's introducing them. Do you know what it actually looked like? And I think this is intentional, given the irony of this, what I'm about to say. But it kind of felt like someone showing someone some coffins, like to buy their coffin. That's what because of the quiet nature and the curtains and how sort of like soft-spoken the salesman was being. It felt like they were shopping for a coffin, but in this case, they were shopping for new young bodies. I don't know. That's the vibe I got. But
yeah, I think the obvious comparison with the name, the Trade-Ins, is very much like you're going to a car dealership.
Yeah. Yeah, well, that's why I said use car salesman first. But now that I'm thinking about the tone of the scene, and I'm thinking about the how the room looked and the way that things were behind glass, and the way he kind of had his arms folded, and he was very understanding, and it was very the actual methods felt a little bit more like he's selling them a coffin to me, in terms of the tone, in terms of the demeanor. But how did you feel about the Trade-Ins?
I thought that this episode was fantastic.
Fantastic.
I really loved it. Yeah, I really love it. I mean, I've watched it twice because we were supposed to review it like a week ago. And like both times, like I know I've gotten emotional in episodes before, but this is I think the first one where I just outright start crying because the performances like really get to me. I think it's really well acted, and the themes that you're working with here. I mean, you already brought up the coffins. They are, two people in their twilight years. So this is very much a Dewey.
And that pun,
it again.
That pun is not lost on Rod Serling because he cracks a Twilight Years joke in his intro.
Right? Yeah. He doesn't even say the Twilight Zone.
No, he just says two people in the Twilight Years are going to find out there's a zone that goes by the same name.
Yeah.
Like, all right, you're getting a little bit hammy there.
Clever.
A little bit hammy.
Okay. Yeah, but I love this episode. I thought it's just really, really great.
Yeah, I liked it. And I also watched it twice again because we delayed the recording, so it was long enough that I had to just watch it again. And I think I actually liked it more on the second time than I did the first time, so you'll probably be glad that I'm a bit more positive than not that I was negative before, but
yeah.
I think there are critiques to be had. I think there's some elements that it doesn't explore that maybe it could go in more to. But if the focus of the episode being the relationship and how much these two old people care about each other, and kind of the dilemma that they're faced upon, which we'll get to in a minute when we get into the plot a bit more, that is fairly well handled. And you mentioned the performances. I think the performances of both are pretty good, but I think the performance of the man in particular is, except the way he like cuts himself off because he's like sort of like catching up, his like thoughts are catching up with like his mouth or vice versa, the way he kind of stammers. And I'm about to break your heart by telling you a bit of trivia that I read about this episode. And
you read trivia for an episode?
I was looking up things. So I didn't corroborate this. I didn't look for other sources, but this was I was looking at the AV Club review of this episode. I was just curious, and something they mentioned, the actor who plays this character, Joseph Schildkraut, if I'm saying his name correctly, he sadly, while they were shooting this episode, his real wife passed away. And,
oh my god!
And they still had some of the episode left to shoot, and I think they offered like, "Hey, do you want to delay this for a little bit?" And he said, "No." He insisted on shooting, and then morning afterwards. And thinking about some of the scenes in this episode, because I didn't read this.
Well, now I know what he's tapping into. Maybe that's why I like it. Actually, really affects me emotionally.
He gets very emotional in this episode, and obviously, not all of it was shot before that happened. So, and he's good throughout the whole episode. So it's not like he suddenly becomes great because a real life tragedy affected him. But clearly, you think about. I mean, there's no guarantee that the order they shot this in. I have no idea. They might, because they probably.
But you know what I'm talking about, right? The poker scene.
The poker scene seems to be the more likely thing because it's separate from the other set. You would assume they shot all the stuff at the other set in a couple of days, and then they shot all the stuff at the poker table on another day or two, and that presumably is maybe the aftermath of what happened to him in real life. And he's particularly amazing in that scene, and it's hard not to maybe imagine that perhaps some of that emotion in that scene is real because of what he's just went through. And given that this episode is entirely about him loving his wife and making the choice to whether or not to live their twilight years together or trade in and go back to like this basically the start, right, the start of their adult life, back to their early 20s or whatever. So that is a very strong element of the episode is his performance. In fact, it's the element that makes it all work. See, if he wasn't that good, this episode would pretty much be mediocre. But he makes this sing, does that performance.
Yeah, I mean, I think it might be like the best that we've seen on the show. I think it really gets me that the poker scene where he's trying to take his 5,000 in order to make enough money so that his wife can also do the transference and be young with him it's always so good because he seems like really out of his element. He like knocks on the door. He doesn't really know what he's doing. He's just he's too old to work, so he's just doing whatever he can to make money in order to be able to go through this with his wife. Oh,
and look at that, we have faces again. We had some technical issues, and honestly, the audio of some of the first part, particularly Tara finding out about the tragedy. Well, not tragedy, but the sad passing of the actor's wife was too good to not use. We didn't want to have to fake it by doing a second take. So
I'm not a very good actress.
So yes. So we just we fixed the tech issue and we're back with faces now. So you were talking about the poker scene, of course, and him. Yeah, because they find out that they only have enough money for one, right? It's going to cost $5,000 per person. They've only got $5,000, and this was a kind of an interesting little tidbit in the episode because he says, "Look, can we pay you $5,000 up front, and then we're going to be young again. We can
get jobs.
Yeah, we can get jobs again. You can take it out of our salaries." Whatever. We'll pay you. I'll even pay you more. You can charge me interest. I'll pay more. And he's like, "No, sorry. There's rules and regulations," and that's never explained. And I get it. It's a short episode of Twilight Zone. There's only so much you can go into, but it's one of those things where it's just there to kind of hand wave something so that the dilemma exists, because that would solve the dilemma.
Yeah, but like, I mean, they also explain that you can basically do a test drive for a week, but like how long do they hold on to their bodies for? So if you transfer your consciousness into this younger body, they hold on to it for a week, and then I don't know, do they go to the incinerator? So it's not like you can repossess a person if they. So it kind of makes sense. Like no, it's a one-time fee thing.
Okay.
Because you don't want to like, you know, give somebody something that they didn't pay for and then they run away with it.
Oh, okay. Yeah, but I mean, you can say that about anything that you get like, in credit. Like, I mean,
yeah, but like they come and collect your car if you stop making payments on it.
Yeah, they come and collect you and put you in a cell or something. I don't know. Like, I'm sure they could think of a method. There should be a way to police that if need be.
Sure. Okay.
You know, I'm just, you know, it stuck out to me as being something that's just there, so the dilemma is pure and it exists with no caveats. But anyway, so yes, and he suggests that it's enough for one of you, and of course. And again, this is maybe something where the episode could have maybe explored a little bit more, is the wife goes, oh, you should do it, because they make it very clear. They explain all these details that he is older than she is. He is in great pain and has been for a couple of years, meaning that he's maybe, on his way out, effectively. And she's like, no, you go first, and, you can make some money, and then we can, I'll shift later. And he's like, no, I'm not good. And it's a really good part of his performance where he's adamant he's not doing that. He's not taking the risk that maybe he'll do this and then she might pass away in that time. Or
yeah, if we do this,
anything.
we do this together.
And it's kind of sweet, and that's fine. But then, the next scene is he goes to the poker game, and it's it's the back of a bar kind of thing. He comes in.
Yeah, he's definitely like out of his element.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. Like, they get their money out to gamble, and as what I kind of liked about this scene is that the guy who's running the game, who's at the piano at first, and he welcomes him in. They kind of present him as like, maybe he's a bit of a thug, or he's like a sort of mob guy, but he's actually kind of sympathetic and nice to him pretty much all the time throughout the entire scene.
Well, I don't know. See, like, he is nice to him. And he asks them a lot of personal questions, because you could see that he's in a lot of pain, and there's a lot of emotion behind his eyes whenever he makes a bet. But also, I think he knows, like, when he walks in, that he might be easy money.
Oh, for sure.
So he purposely goes and joins the game when the old man shows up.
Yeah, but
so I think there was a little bit of that.
Well, yeah, but that's my point, though, is that he's like willing to just sort of, you can join the game, I'm just going to take your money, that's fine. But once they actually sit down and start playing, and he gets more of his story, he sees them interact, he sees them, when he whips out his money and he says, oh, did you do well on the horses or something, because like you've got a big wad of cash there, he's oh no, I'm not much of a gambler. And there's little beats like that, and there's all these little things that just paint enough of a curiosity in this character. And
yeah, it's actually not a very long scene either. It feels like it goes on a while because it's very quiet. Like it's very quiet. I think it's pretty well directed this way too. It's intentionally just still, and we know what he's gambling with here. It's not just money. It's whether or not he's going to be able to hold on to his wife during all this. Like, there's a lot more at stake than just the money. So
yeah, obviously,
yeah. So he's I think you're right about your speculation on when this scene was filmed. Also, because there was definitely an emotional reaction from the gambler, from the guy who was trying to hustle him at first. Just became Scottish. Because he's...
I didn't hear it, but sure, I'll take your word for it.
You didn't hear my first? Anyway, whatever. So... Yeah, so he's... because, the old man is so emotional when he's actually telling him why he's there and why he needs the money.
Which, for the record, I think it's important to note that the gambler guy asks this. Like, it's when they're about to make their final bets and all the money's in the pot, and he's like, stakes are high. He's like, hey, what's your story, old man? He's like, no, I want to know, I'm curious. And he sort of leans in, he wants to hear it. And I think one of the things that it does with this character that's really interesting to me, it's a really simple little thing, but when he's at the piano at the start, he's trying to remember this tune, right? And he's trying to play it on the piano, and he tries a couple of times and he fails. And when he sits down at the table, he hums the tune again as he's dealing the cards. And then at the end of the scene, after the old man leaves, he kind of hums it again to himself a little bit as he leans back. And I think it's a really simple little thing, but I think it's trying to at least give you the idea that this guy is at least a little bit of a romantic because he likes music. Because and not romantic in a love sense. Like, I'm not saying he cares about romance. I'm saying
it does sound like a love song, though.
Yeah,
like
but more in the sense that he does understand passion, that he is nostalgic for things, that he respects art, he respects people, he respects those, like love for things. I think that it's just that simple little thing, but having that through line where he keeps trying to remember that tune, is just there,
Yeah, I mean, when I'm bringing it up mostly is like when I watched it this just now, on my like computer monitor, so I'm much closer to it. So like you can see like his chin and lip quiver when the guy like makes his bed. He goes, I got three big ones here.
The old man, that
pops
is.
or whatever. No, I'm talking about the gambler.
Well, the
gambler has an emotional reaction where like you could see his lip and chin quiver.
Oh,
like
sure,
he's
okay.
going to cry.
Okay, sure, but the old man's lip also definitely quivers, which is why I thought you meant him.
He's not just quivering.
Well, there's a lot more, but like he definitely quivers.
No, yeah, okay. Well, I'm talking specifically about the gambler reacting to the old man, and I assume it's more the actors reacting to each other because like he probably knows, the tragedy that happened. And so this emotion that's coming out of him is very real. And, I think it comes through, the screen when you watch it. Like, it's just so much. And then, like, seeing him react emotionally, the gambler react emotionally to him, is like, it's just heartbreaking and devastating. And, and then the guy basically lets him have the pot because it's basically just $5,000. It's you can leave with what you came, and no hard feelings.
He throws his hand because he knows he's won the hand, and he decides not to show his cards. He decides to let him take it. Because we see
I bawled during this. So emotional.
We see the old man's cards. He's got 3 kings, and he's like, and he puts them down, and he's not. I mean, I don't want to say he's confident. Like, he sort of says a confident line, but he doesn't sound confident as he says it. He says,
his voice is breaking.
Is it better than these? And he looks. And when we see his cards, we see the 3 aces. We know it's the only thing. I mean, I'm not much of a poker guy, so I don't really know if there's much more. But I know the aces beat kings.
As far as 3 of a kind goes, yeah.
Yeah. All right. Oh yeah, sure. I'm sure if you had 4 of something, maybe that would win.
Yeah.
Wait,
yes, it would.
Yeah, but would any 4s, would 4 8s beat 3 kings?
Yes. 4 of a kind beats a 3 of a kind. I don't know that much about poker, but
sure, okay.
Yeah.
I'll take your word for it. Anyway, but we see his thing, and it spends a lot of time in intense close-ups. It spends a lot of time with him contemplating his decision, and he chooses to let him go with what he had. And I think this is thematically very important to the episode and the old man's choice, because he comes here. And there was actually a portion of this scene where I actually thought he was trying to intentionally lose his money, because I was thinking that he didn't want his wife to talk him into letting him do it on his own, so he was going to intentionally throw his money away so that he couldn't do it. I thought that was maybe something that was happening in the scene, and then by the end of the scene, especially on the second watch, when he gets his money back because the gambler decides to let him take what he started with. It was kind of this idea of like, well, he came here in the hopes of more, potentially, but ultimately realised that what he already had was important and left with what he came with. And that ties into the end of the episode, where he does realise at the end of this scene, he gets so scared and he's in so much pain that he kind of like, she'll understand if, if I go through this.
I think his wife is the one who talked him into it, because she has to encourage him to do it, otherwise he wouldn't do it.
No, but what he's saying as he leaves this scene is that he's going to. He says that she'll understand. Like, he's made the choice in this scene. He's speaking to himself as he walks out the poker game, like, she'll understand. Like, he's saying that. He's trying to convince himself that it's okay. And sure enough, he goes, he changes into this young man, he comes out and he's running around, he's doing push-ups, he's like, nothing hurts.
Look at me, Marie, look at me.
And immediately I had this thought, I'm like, but you two are going to look so weird, like going to like a party together, like this young 22-year-old and this old woman who's like hitting 80.
Well, I think that's one of the things that she even like realizes, is that she doesn't see her husband when she looks at him.
Yeah, and this is partly where I think the episode has a failing from a science fiction point of view, is that it doesn't really explore the possibility of what if they did it together, and what if they both did this and they were both refreshed, would they have the same reaction where they decide it's not for them, or because we don't get a chance to kind of even get a hint of that really. Here it shows you him going younger, and they have this reaction to each other, and it all plays out with no words. Like, they're basically just looking at each other. This like horror sting plays in the soundtrack, and she's like, I don't even see my husband, and he realizes that they're kind of separate now because ultimately he's going to be able to live a new life and she can't. And he makes the choice to reverse the process. He comes back out as the old man. He's like, you know what? We made this choice to be in this life together. We're going to finish this. And it kind of it's almost like The Money, where he went in looking for more, but he realized that what he already had was the most important thing.
It also reminds me of like the San Junipero episode of Black Mirror.
The best episode of Black Mirror.
I mean, yeah, it's up there. I really like Shut Up and Dance, but I'm an awful person, maybe. I don't know.
Shut Up and Dance was the best episode of Black Mirror for one episode, and then San Junipero took the crown. They're the two best episodes of that entire show.
Yeah, that was a good season. Anyway, it reminded me of that because of the whole like transference of your consciousness into something else that would essentially allow you, in this case, another life, but in that case, it would be like a heaven. So, but one of the struggles that the main character goes through is, but what if there is heaven? What if I'm missing out on this other part of life, which is, supposed to happen, and because I cheated, I never get to experience that. That's the whole point of life, is that it ends one day. And I think there's a little bit of that in this episode too, because they keep bringing up like their wedding vows and what the rabbi told them, and about leaving this world together. And so I think that's also like a theme of why they don't ultimately go through with it.
I think that part's a little thin. Like, I see why you're saying that, but I don't think the episode really explores it all that much. And that's kind of what I mean. Like, the question of, like, is our immortality something that we should want? I feel like this episode becomes more about them as a pair, and them, the difference of one of them being young and the other one not being, and the idea of being together is the more important element of this episode. The actual discussion about, should we live forever? What are the pros and cons to that? Is life ending an important part of it, where, we're the idea being that when you get to a certain age, you are kind of like accepting the fact that I'm kind of ready to go, when it's time. Like, like maybe not everyone is, but I don't think this episode asks the larger than life questions in a general sense, but it does a really good job of asking the questions about these two and their relationship with each other, and the possible separation where they're not each other's husband and wife anymore, when one of them goes through this. Again, it'd have been really interesting to think about, like, if they both went through this though, and they both had this new lease in life, would it feel like such a shock? Would it be more like, okay, we both look different now, so we're on equal footing, but we still love each other, and we're still going to, go through this life again?
Maybe it's harder to comprehend because we're still at the age where we can't imagine like accepting death.
Speak for yourself.
Because that's really. Do you want to talk after? I have some numbers you can call. But like I don't know. Like, I think I think Marie kind of represents, his wife kind of represents like the part of him that is still holding on to the acceptance of dying together, of like, just holding on to the life that mattered. I mean, if they start over, who knows if they even would stay together, because they have this whole new lease on life. They have different bodies. He's going to look at her and see some brunette woman that he doesn't know, and of course it'll be her inside, but like that was her reaction when she saw him, was very much like, this isn't my husband. And he looks at her and sees his wife still, but he might get that same reaction when she goes into another body.
Yeah. I mean, I don't deny that it's there a little bit, but I'm just saying that it focuses on the sentiment and the sentimentality of these two characters more than it focuses on the science fiction philosophical questions. And it's not that the questions aren't there to raise, because they are. We're talking about them. They're clearly inherent to the premise. They're inherent to the conversation about what this episode is doing. Mm-hmm. But the episode doesn't really explore that side of things that much. It explores the sentimental side, and even Rod at the end of the episode, talks about this being for sentimentalists, this episode. And that's okay if that's what the focus was, and you've only got 25 minutes. You have to pick one. Like, it would probably fall apart if it tried to do both things. I'm not saying that this is necessarily the wrong choice. I'm just, in terms of this, what I'm saying is there's more juice in this story idea for more than 25 minutes. There's enough here for at least an hour.
Well, I know there's another episode, I think it's season 5, that I love, that is very similar to this, but you're not dealing with elderly.
Yeah, no, but I think that's fair, though, because I think there's juice in this to come back to this general idea, but with maybe one person who's on their own and doesn't have the relationship to, sort of tether them to something, or the idea that you're at your journey's end. Like, sure, these people have had a happy marriage and a happy life together, but what about someone who feels that they never really had a good life? What about someone who feels that they never achieved their potential, and they get to the end of their life and go, you know what, I want a second try? And maybe they actually make use of a second try because they do feel like they wasted their first go round. Like, these two people clearly had a happy marriage and are content to go together, So
yeah.
Yeah, and obviously there's the accepting of the inevitability of things, not just the death, but the pain that he's in before, and his final years, and
and they're both obviously religious, so they do have, the next life that they're looking forward to together.
Yeah. So I mean, as far as episodes goes, I think the execution of the science fiction elements of it are a little on the light side, but the performances and the sentimental side of the characters are going through is handled very, very well. And at the very least, all of those ideas are just kind of baked into the premise, because it's been very easy to talk about what a lot of this is, what it pertains to, what it kind of is touching upon. Even if I don't think the episode itself inherently talks about, the moral reasons for going back and starting again just because you can afford to pay for it, or like even the question of, because this is what popped into my head, because the way he describes the process when the salesman's like saying, oh, this is what we're going to do, I'm like, I don't know if I'm convinced you're transferring them over or just making a copy. And that's a whole other discussion to talk about, right? Is this just like a mental clone? Is this a copy and paste of their mind, or is it the actual person?
Maybe, but he comes back, so like it is kind of like San Junipero that way, where you get to test drive and come back to your body, so know that you've experienced it.
Oh yeah, obviously that happens later on, but I'm talking about in the moment when he describes it. I immediately had the thought.
So yeah, it's like a transporter. So is it like an actual murder machine where each time somebody dies?
For all we know, when he comes back at the end, this is the third version of his brain. This is the third sort of soul or life that he's had, because he get
Maybe
copied.
He died that first time on
and
the
original got deleted, and then when he went back again to his original body, that second version got copied and deleted, and we're on to the third version. So
that's always the risk, right?
And that paints the ending quite dark. When he's like, oh, but this is the life that we chose, and we're going to end it together the proper way. I'm like, yeah, but you're on your third go round at this point.
Yeah.
The original you's already dead.
Yeah, we don't really get to hear exactly what it is, but it does sound like they're using some sort of computer or something to do the transfer. Although we see doctors.
Yes.
Like surgeons and stuff come out. So
I assume they have to stick some needles in his head or something to copy the data.
Just take a little bit of brain matter and put it in this clone.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of fun stuff to talk about. It's clearly a very in-depth concept, but that it's not really dabbled in too much as of yet.
No, not yet. Like I said, I know we have at least one more episode that sort of deals with something similar. In idea-wise, I'm sure it was inspired by this episode to write something else that I know I also really love. But that one is more of that one does more of the sci-fi stuff. But this one I still think is quite special, really, really good.
No, I think it's really good too. I know it's. I know when I start critiquing something, it's assumed that I don't like it or I'm trying to put it down. I'm saying it's very good, but it's very good in a very particular lane, and it's there's other lanes to explore here which it doesn't really do, and that's okay. But I think it is very much worth pointing out what it's not choosing to explore as much. But again, you've only got 25 minutes. Like that's like the performances. Like, see if this episode was the same, but the performances were only okay, I would probably be tearing this one apart a little bit because I would feel like it's avoiding all the interesting stuff. Because the emotion wouldn't be working as well.
Like, there's so much, like, obviously, like, the performances are exceptional, but, like, it still was quite a discussion from us from the ideas that were just presented in it.
Well, yeah, but that's the ideas. That's not the execution of the episode. Whereas the episode itself, because it's well performed, because it's fairly well directed, this one as well, I thought. But the performance, like, see that whole gambler scene, without the performance of both the old man and the gambler character, I think that scene would have just felt like, okay, like, but it's great because of their performances.
Yeah. I mean, okay, I think the script's pretty tight also, but that's all right. I mean, this one's pretty high up there for me. I don't know if it's the best one of the season, but it's second best maybe for me. It's really, I really think it's strong.
I'm not going to pretend I remember what all the episodes this season were until I go back and look at them and we do our top 10.
Yeah.
So let's not get into that debate. I will say this though. I mean, even if we slightly disagree on how good this is, although the argument's not is it good or bad, the argument's is it great or like all-timer, apparently, from your side of the defense. But regardless of that debate, I think this is a far more interesting episode to talk about than I'd say at least 2/3 of the episodes this season. And that's not necessarily to knock this season as a whole. I mean, I'm just saying that I would much rather have something interesting to talk about than something that's good but just kind of by the numbers.
Sure.
So, give it points where you may. But yeah, that's the episode. That's the trade-ins. Pretty good. So, of course, Rod, the old chum that he is, showed up for
our buddy Rod
for the ending. I did watch the episode again because we delayed, from like a week and a half ago, or whatever it was. I did, however, not watch Rod's little speech at the end. I just turned it off when the episode ended. So, I don't have a clue what he said.
It sounds really good, actually. It sounds very, very cool.
But it's called The Gift, and I'll read the description from IMDb because I knew I was going to read this. I didn't. You know what? For once, I just won't remember what he said at the end. It's fine. So, a man from the stars comes with a gift to a small Mexican village whose residents do not welcome the stranger. Did he say anything that made it particularly more exciting sounding?
Aliens, I think. That's what he said.
That's the alien, okay.
I don't know. I don't remember exactly his line, but I remember being encouraged at the end. Like, oh, this sounds like it's going to be pretty good.
We shall see. We shall see. That is The Gift. That'll be the next episode we do. But you can let us know what you thought of this one in the comments. You can like and subscribe and ding the bell for notifications, and all those things do help us out a lot. They help out every YouTube channel if you do them, so that's why they all tell you to do it. So please hit those buttons if you like the show and you want it to keep coming. Tara's going to tell you about Patreon, though.
Yep, if you enjoy our reviews, please check out our Patreon page. It's patreon.com/MalfuzzTV. And if you donate as low as $1 per month, you'll get access to bonus episodes of other shows we do. And if you donate $5 per month, you'll get access to these Twilight Zone reviews 1 week early. And you also get Babylon 5 and Star Trek a week early. Yeah, go check it out. Thank you.
Yeah, so there you go. That's pretty much it. Get us on the Twitters at @mail_fuzz for channel updates. And apologies once again for the first several minutes not having video. But tech issues be tech issues. So there you go. That is our Twilight Zone discussion for the week. So thank you once again for watching or listening. We always appreciate it. Keep watching TV in the Twilight Zone.